This video is sponsored by Aavegotchi. Aavegotchi is a really cool mix-up of multiple blockchain features including gaming, NFTs and DeFi. Fundamentally how it works is you have to take some tokens, they're called A tokens, they're created by the Aave DeFi protocol, and you use those to mint an Aavegotchi. An Aavegotchi is like a Tamagotchi but on the blockchain, and it kind of lives around. You have to kind of look after it, and you can play games with it, and you can get wearables for it and do the kind of cool things that we'd expect to do with it with a kind of living blockchain NFT. But what's interesting is it always has a value because you've taken some of these A tokens to mint it in the first place, and the A tokens always gain an interest rate, so the value goes up. Of course, the value also arises from how the project is developing and the cool things you can do with it. So it's a kind of best of both worlds. It's really cool. I suggest you check it out at aavegotchi.com. Thanks for the sponsorship. Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World Daily with me, John Jordan. So the news we're looking at today is about Animoca Brands' F1 Delta Time game. And they are announcing their final NFT sale of their 2020 season. So a few things that I think are a bit complicated about this, and I have thought a bit complicated for a while, to be honest. Obviously now we're in 2021, so the fact they're doing a 2020 season sale is a bit odd to my way of thinking. So I'm not quite sure why that is the case. I guess the 2021 season hasn't started yet, but I'm not quite sure what encouragement there is for people to buy the 2020 season when the 2021 season is going to start in March. I don't know. I mean, I think generally I've always felt this is a sort of a problem with these games that are based in real life. Kind of particularly about fantasy sports, because the fantasy sports season changes, and you're kind of locked into this kind of weird cycle where immediately, as soon as the season changes, kind of all the NFTs you've sold in the previous 12 months are kind of even if they're not valued less immediately, their perceived value is less because the new ones come along. Anyway, I won't go into that today. So what's going on here anyway is F1 Delta Time 2020 season stuff is available. Now what's interesting here is, as before, they're not selling crates, although effectively what you're doing here is buying crates which have 5 NFTs in them. The NFTs are the car components, so components that you fit to your car, and there's also components for the driver. So basically the F1 Delta Time game is a racing game. Obviously you need a car. You need a car, a driver, and some tyres. That's the minimum. But then you kind of add these other components to kind of make it go faster, sort of thing, or in terms of the tyres, deal with weather conditions. So there's that kind of like a sort of meta game around it. And what they've done here is they've not sold. You're not buying crates as would normally be the case. They've put in an extra step. So this is kind of interesting. Although again, I don't really understand this, I have to say. So you buy a key, and a key gains you access to open the NFT crate, which has these 5 NFTs in. As we'd expect, we have a kind of a rarity model. So we have common, rare, epic, and legendary. There are 1,300 keys in total. That's the maximum. So they may not all be sold, in which case I guess they'd be burnt probably. Although I don't know, because it says the sale will start, so maybe the sale will just keep going. I don't know. It doesn't say there's an end date. One of the other interesting things here is we can see, excuse me, that you have to use the Rev token. So the Rev token is the cryptocurrency for the F1 Delta Time game, and the cheapest one's the common one. So this key will allow you access to the NFT box, which has 5 common elements, and it probably has some. There's a drop, the drop rarity. So there may be some. There's a chance you'll get some better stuff, but generally you'll get mainly common stuff. Now, what's happened during the last few months, the price of crypto has gone up quite a lot. So this Rev currency started out when it was launched at about 1 cent. So 1 Rev was worth 1 cent. So back then this was about $10, I think. Problem is now the price of Rev has gone up. It's now more like 6.5 cents. And I guess they feel like they can't change the pricing because they've already sold some at these prices. I guess that's the only thing I can think of. But it just means the price of these common keys, the cheapest key now, the common one, is $65. And this legendary key is about $3,000. That's 38,000 Rev. That's what it is at the moment. Now, I think a lot of people, like F1 Delta Time is interesting in the sense that it's been this long drawn out project where they've gradually added things in, and they finally added like the last bit of gameplay, which I admit I've not really got into. So there's been like an idle game kind of element and lots of staking and this sort of stuff. So there has been like a lot of blockchain stuff around using the Rev tokens and the NFTs. There hasn't been a lot of game focus, and that's just, I think, partly because the thing has been drawn out so long, and also obviously issues with gas fees and stuff. So I do wonder whether it's interesting that F1 Delta Time has kind of developed into not a mass market game. It will, I can't say it will never be a mass market game, but it seems now in my perception that it will not be a mass market game unless they change something quite radically and stick it on a side chain or something. But just the way it's designed, it's not designed to be played really, I don't think, on a side chain. But now where it might still be successful and has been successful, it's raised over $2 million in terms of NFT sales last year, is something where kind of high rollers go and play. So, and there have been these people who are spending tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars on these very high-end NFTs in this game, and putting together kind of sports teams and esports teams and that sort of thing, because they think it's going to be a big deal, and you can win kind of prizes for where you end up on the leaderboard. So there is a kind of an economic system in there. I guess it's just not, when we thought about an F1 game, we thought that might go quite mass market, and that's just, I don't think, how it's kind of panning out. Which may be, I don't know if that's how Animoca Brands designed it, or whether that's just kind of how it's gone in terms of how the crypto market's gone. But I think it's interesting to talk about. The other thing about these, just mention these keys, which is kind of interesting, is, and I think one of the reasons that they've done this key thing rather than just giving you buying a crate and open the NFTs is obviously you don't have to open these. So the keys effectively become a form of currency. A bit like packets of cigarettes in a prison. Some of them, that's a good analogy. So some people maybe just be buying these, spending $3,000 buying these legendary keys, and then trading the legendary keys on OpenSea or something like that. And these things are never opened. The NFTs are never opened. That's a kind of another interesting thing. We see this with card packs, where people buy card packs for certain kind of NFT collectibles, and the packs actually start to have a lot of value. Because there is that random element that well, one they're scarce. There's only 1,300 of these keys. More were sold previously, but they're pretty scarce. And there's also if people do want to open them, they're not quite sure what they're going to get. There is a kind of like a gacha excitement mechanic around it as well. So anyway, that's kind of, I think, is some thoughts around F1 Delta Time. I don't know if they are correct. I definitely know as a game it hasn't gone mass market yet. It doesn't have a lot of players, but I know it has some players who have put an awful lot of value into it, and they are playing it on a kind of professional level. So that may be a unintended consequence of designing a blockchain game in this way. We will see. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. This is Blockchain Gaming World, where I muse daily about the blockchain game market, and like a stopped clock, am sometimes correct, I guess. But I hope you find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and see you again soon.